Okay, excellent. So I've just put the link to the timeline that I'm going to be showing you in the chat. You can look at it yourself, but if you do right now, you might get a little bit distracted because there's little rabbit holes you can go down to. It's really fun, I think, but I created it, so that's my opinion. So this is just the basic history for those of you who don't know it. We count 1697 as the founding of Abington Friends School. That's the year that John Barnes gifted land to the school and the meeting. You actually, on this map that's hanging in our archive room by the A here, you can see there's next to Sarah Fuller there, it says Barnes. And I believe that's our land. The map is sideways. This is the Delaware River along the bottom. So the orientation is weird. It's not a north, south, east, west map. But that's kind of what we're talking about. Here's a picture of the meeting house. This was not the meeting house in 1702. It started out much smaller and has expanded, but this is before the Barnes room or the East Wing are on it, so it looks a little bit odd. The school met in the meeting house for the first 80 years. That's where, it would have been like a one room, maybe two, I don't know what it was like. Then we have very little record of that. Most of the records of the school are with the meeting minutes, I think, at the Swarthmore Library. In 1784, they built this building, which has been used as the caretaker's house until recently. This is the oldest picture we have of the school. There were 2 classrooms in this building. The girls would attend on the 2nd floor and only for part of the year. And the boys had the 1st floor, at least for part of the time, is my understanding. It's interesting, this photo, the students all have hoops. I don't know if that was like just a very popular game at the time. Now, the school only went until high school. Many high school students from AFS would go to board at Westtown, or they would go to Penn Charter. And then in 1887, we built this building, which some of you recognize and some of you have never seen this one before in your lives. It was on the Triangle property, and it was to hold a boarding school for high school students. The reason is that there was a split in Quakerism called the Hicksite split. And Westtown was one sect and AFS was another, or Abington meeting was another. And so we could no longer send our students to the Westtown for high school. So we needed a high school. So they built this building. They first built half of it, and then just a few years later built the second half in 1889. So it was just a few years different. And here's that postcard you saw at the beginning over on the left. This is the back of it. It says, there's a quote, misspelling. Am leaving this morning. Sorry you are not well. Love, Florence, on the back. And if you want to, you can play around to try to figure out what date it was sent. It's very hard to see the year, but if you want to guess by postcard rates, you could play with that later. It's one of those interactive things. This photo, which is very yellow, shows an addition that was put on the back that was a little tiny large room that was used as a gym and all sorts of performance space, all sorts of things. You can see it again from the back behind these girls on the exercise equipment outside. Here's a Christmas pageant that was done in that room. So you see all the windows along the back. Those are the windows that you see here behind the girls. Then 1914, they decided to close the high school and going back just to be a co-ed day school for K-8 students. The minutes of the school committee give no reason for this. And various local historians have hypothesized about why it happened. Jacobtown Public School was established around that time. So there were other options for high school. And I think that the schism was over so they could send students back to West Town. Boys were deciding to go to Penn Charter because there was more sports. So they closed the high school for a while. Then in 1930, they built this addition, which is still standing on the Triangle property. And that was so we could have a high school program. And that was going to be just for girls. They did all these studies to see what was missing in the area, and a girls' school was missing. So they added that. Isn't this a great picture? You'll see this later. This girls reading in the student lounge, it was called. Then they knocked down this building had a porch on both sides, and they knocked down one of the porches so that they could build the Triangle Gym, which was built in 1951. Here's the souvenir of the dedication of the gymnasium / auditorium, they called it. You can see there's a stage there, and you can see it was added on to these buildings. The gym is over to the right over there. And here's the picture of the new modern gym in 1950. So you can see the Triangle property from above here. You see the first building that was built in 1887. The next one, you see in the blue, 1889, the little gym in 1992, addition in 1930 to make it a girls' school, and then the gym in 1951. Then they were kind of in a crunch and running out of space. Oh, on this timeline, there's the plans for all of the building over there if you want to see them. They were running out of space because here they are in this little triangle, right? And there's the hockey field across the way and the meeting house. And all of this land was donated by John Barnes, but had been rented as by the club, the Abington Club, and it was all a golf course. And they waited for that lease for the golf course to be up before they could move across the street again. Over here, you see where it says Barnes, that's actually where the farmhouse is and where the current building is now. And they were pretty landlocked there on the Triangle building. So they did lots of different studies, and they tried to figure out what they needed to do. They wanted to bring boys back and become a co-ed school again after they did some studies. So you'll see then they added in the East Wing in 1966, blah, 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 like this kind of stuff. And then in 1968, they moved across the street. They built what is now the upper and middle schools. You'll see this is just the end of the beginning of the middle school right now. I guess it was the end of the upper school at that point, right? With the farmhouse. The drawings were very period looking. Look at this. This is like a nice green blue, nice drawings. This is so fun to read if you want to go later and look at this letter, because in 1966, they built the East Wing to the meeting house, which looks just like the meeting house. It looks like it's always been there. It's stone and gorgeous, right? And then in 1968, they built this modern looking thing that the author of this letter calls a mall. Looks like a mall. All we need is a bowling alley. It's to make it look like a mall. So it's really a very funny letter and so true. So it's all there about how ugly that building was. And here's how ugly it really looked. I mean, some of you went to school when it looked like this, I'm sure. It looks like a bus stop to me, the way it is there. I've got like some of the primary sources from, the dedication. And here's the Hollowell Gym, which was built when that building was built. It was called the Boys Gym because the Triangle Gym was for the girls. That was the plan. And originally there was also a plan to build another gym next to the Hollowell called the Girls Gym. Did not happen for a long time, as you know. So then on this here's what it looked like at that time with just the upper school and just the gym is there. And then in the 1970s, here's where we added the middle school. I have the plans for that and I outlined it in red. Then they built the lower school. And here's moving day from the lower school when upper school students helped move all the furniture to the lower school, or some of it, not the big stuff, I would imagine. Then here's what to do with the old building. Eventually they decided that it was best to demolish parts of it because they couldn't find anybody to rent it. And the cost was so, I found a cost analysis. It cost like $6,000 to knock it down. And the part they kept was, they had to renovate, was $200,000. So it was a huge difference. And then, so that was sad, kind of, you know, to say goodbye to that building, I'm sure. In the 1980s, there was a huge boon. We gained this house, which is now called Tyson House. It was used by a music school before we used it. There's still practice rooms up on the 3rd floor. It's very interesting. But when it became part of our campus, if you want to look at where everything was, it's very interesting. The nurse's office was up on the 2nd floor. If you can imagine getting the lower school students from the lower school who needed to see the nurse all the way across the parking lot upstairs to see the nurse, that would have been quite a feat. Also in that same time period, we added the fine arts and science wings. One in the what's now downstairs of the middle school was our first science wing. And we also added things to the lower school, including the art room, the science room, the music room. That's such a gorgeous addition. That was a huge campaign. Here's parts, you know, you see pictures of construction of the fine arts wing. I love these cars though. Look at these cars. They're just so lovely. So period. And here's a good, did you know the inaugural concert of the Muller Auditorium was a performance by Grover Washington Jr., but I just found out he's actually related to alumni. So that's why. Then in the 1990s, we got a whole nother science wing added to the upper school called the Goodman Science Wing. And this is the lobby to that, which is pictured here. And then in the early 2000s, boom, this thing really grew. We got in all of Student Street, this rounded part in the back, plus my natural habitat, the library, the new library in the front of the building, which takes it out of the shopping mall looking look to something more substantial. So 2019, then we got to the Berman Athletic Center, which added on this giant gym and a beautiful exercise center. It brings us to what it looks like today from a drone. You can see the triangle way in the back here, where most of the buildings were eventually, and up in those trees is the meeting house and the cemetery. Isn't it gorgeous? They did a good job taking this photo too, when some of the blooming trees, it was definitely spring. So that's the quick intro to the history, and the link is in the chat. And if you need it, I can get it to you if you need it differently. Then I have some slides that I've taken old pictures and shown you what they are. So let me do that. Can you see the slides? Anybody give me a quick thumbs up if you see them?
There we go.
You got them? Okay. All right. So this is taken in the 1870s. You saw this before in the timeline. And that's what it looks like now. I couldn't get any closer because the rhododendrons are so large that are surrounding it. This is in the 1920s, before they added on the addition for the 1930s. And you'll notice the trees that we're looking at. And I tried to get the photo right from the same trees. That's the triangle gym in front of it. And those are the same trees. I'll go back. So it's those little trees 100 years later, 102. That's on the end of the triangle property. Here's the boarding school building that was built in the 1880s. In 1910, look at the car. Isn't that cute? I love the car.
Great.
In there. There's the car over here. And this is what it looks like today, because they knocked down the top 2 floors of one of the buildings and the other one is completely gone. I can show you more of that later. This is moving day. You saw that on the timeline. I tried to get this from, this is not the exact quite angle, but pretty close. I need to be a little bit closer to it. But you see just the bottom 2 floors of that and the empty parking lot where the big building would have been. So I'll go back again. See that big old building. I think this tree, I think the tree on the left might be the same tree. Was 50 years ago. This is 2002 when they were building Student Street. Here we are 20 years later. That tree grew really fast, I have to say. It's only 20 years. I mean, the plantings are really beautiful. This is the science lobby in 1997, before Student Street was built. And here it is in 2022. I think this might be around the 1970s. I don't know when it said the Ruse rule on the gym wall before they painted it. This is in the Hollowell gym during a concert. That's what the Hollowell gym looks like now, or half of it. It's got that beautiful exercise room in it. They put a lot more windows in. Here's the student lounge from the addition from the 1930s, filled with girls. Here it is now. It's not being used. The building is maintenance's headquarters. I took a trip with the AFS History Club. This group of students and I went to explore it. So I took their picture there. It's not a great photo, but you can see from the outside where that window is. There's the bus stop looking entrance to the upper school. I'm saying the 1980s just based on this person's overalls. I wore a pair of overalls in high school when I was in the 1980s. So that's just my guesstimate. But now I couldn't quite get the angle right because the door is in the way, but it's now this lobby where that entrance is, or was. Here's in the early 1960s, a class using the farmhouse as a classroom. Here it is now. That's my favorite one. I'm going to go back. Look at all the land you can see behind the hedge. It's just a golf course out there at that time. And now it's the middle school, the arts wing. All right, are you ready to test your knowledge? All right, we're gonna play a Kahoot. And if you don't know how to get on a Kahoot, it's okay. Just pretend that we're playing Jeopardy and you're at home watching Jeopardy on television and just yell out your answer while you're muted. Does that make sense? Or just write it down, whichever you want to do. All right, I have to stop sharing for one moment because I want to just do that.
No, I know. No.
All right, so we're gonna play it.
I'm comfortable with mine.
Start. All right, sharing screen. Kahoot. All right, classic mode. Let's see. Okay, so if you are somebody who uses your phone a lot, you can go to, you want to do this on your phone,
Hmm?
but if you don't worry, we will just start shortly.
Hmm? Okay.
All you need to do
Yes.
is to go to Kahoot it and put in this number. And then if you want to join us playing the Kahoot, but you will join us anyway if you don't use your phone. You will just yell out like you are on Jeopardy.
Tony,
Yeah.
while we're waiting for folks to join the Kahoot, if they're going to, that concert in the Hollowell, Doug was wondering if that might be Winterfest, but I'm not
No,
sure.
I don't know. It looked more like it was like there was an audience and it doesn't look as.
Really, I need some help here. I don't know how to
Yeah.
do this.
Okay.
Can you come there? They're playing Kahoot. I have no idea.
Oh, you don't,
I'm-
if you, don't worry if you don't know how to play. If you don't know how to play, it will be like Jeopardy in a minute. You could just figure out what you think your answer is.
The classroom of the lab.
I don't know
Sorry,
how to play.
the picture of the classroom in the lounge was
Yeah.
my class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I recognized it, right? And my mother was the chairman to raise the money for the gym in 1951.
That's amazing.
It was interesting. Yeah.
That's amazing. I would love to chat with you more about that. All right. We might just start playing, and those of you who, well, we'll wait one more minute. And those of you who can't get on, it's fine. I'm just going to move this so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. And then we'll have plenty of time for discussion / questions. We can look back at whatever we want. All right. I'm gonna, okay, here we go. All right, Lisa got on even. Doug's on. This Kahoot we do a lot, especially since the pandemic. This is one way to really get the kids interested. They love Kahoots. I'm gonna hit start. It's a little bit of a contest, and it tells you how many points you have after every round if you're on there. So if you're on, you're gonna push the shape and color that on your phone or other device. Otherwise, just in 9 seconds, you'll know if you are right, if you are not on a Kahoot. The land it is on does indeed look like a triangle. And here I show you, I'll bring you back to the picture that I showed you before of the triangle property. All right, here's a true or false. Some of you might not know because you haven't even seen the new Berman Center. It is false. Tug is in the lead. You can still see the shape right here of the Hollowell. The walls, the outer walls were kept. Aha, here's a only 3 people got that correct. We've been trying to get the extension of the Greenwood Avenue extension closed since it was actually 52. I have some minutes here from 53 because this was the more interesting one. Mr. Samuel High and Mr. Kinney of the State Highway Department are to confer shortly on the state support for a plan for modification of the intersection at Meeting House and Jacobtowns Road. Should this be, like then it says we can go and see if we can get the road closed. It reads, I read it one summer and it reads like a suspense novel. I'm like, why isn't it every minute? It's like, we're next month, it's going to be closed next month. And I can never, you're like, what happened? What happened? Why is it still open? All right, here's your next question. It is true. The lower school was built on an open classroom concept, open classroom principle. You see how it says no walls equals groovy. No, no walls equals noisy. It was noisy. I found one picture, which I cannot find now, of the library, which is in the middle. And it has only like 2 walls. Some of you may have seen it when it was open before they closed it off. So it was like the center of the school. It is at the center of the school. It just had no walls. All right. Oh, trick question. $122 is the correct answer. I will show you why momentarily. There is no evidence of a high school until 1890, right? And there are 24 classes that graduated between 1890 and 1914. And the next class graduated in 1933 because they closed between 1914 and 33, the high school. So we have 98 classes since then. I think my math is correct. Math is not my strength. I don't do well with numbers, except the Dewey Decimals and stuff, but that's another story. Ha. Very good. Here's a map of the original triangle gym, and you see just one locker room. I recently went up into this gym office, which has a window overlooking the locker room, so the girls couldn't get up to any shenanigans, I guess. But it's interesting how it's up high. You go up these steps to get to it. There's the little men. That's right. Both of them can be true. John's still in first place. So here's a program from Little Women, but it's assisted by Chestnut Hill Academy, which was all boys at the time because we were all girls. And then the triangle was one of the performance spaces before the Muller Auditorium was built in 1990. So both could be true. It's false. They were demolished. Isn't this is such a cool, I found this summer, this demolition blueprint that shows the parts that are hashed out where the 3rd and 4th floor here, where the dorm rooms were. And there may have been some dorm rooms up on this one as well. I don't remember, but the plans are on that timeline if you want to see where they were, but they were all taken down. It's almost, I feel like this looks like it's the ghost of the building. And how did you like that picture of the dorm room? I just put that in today because I found that. 1903. 1903. Oh, we can see who the winners are. This is what the kids love about Kahoot. Gretchen, you're in 3rd place. Betsy, you're in 2nd place. Ba-ba. On one. That's why the kids love it. Oh, and it tells me 3 difficult questions. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Anybody have comments, thoughts? You can either raise your hand or just yell them out. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I might start again if you want to see something different. Is there any picture you absolutely thought was great?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sort of about the like Greenwood Ave like road closure thing. Was that because of like safety reasons, or were they trying to like make one continuous campus and get that road out of the middle of the way? Like, what was the reasoning?
I think it was both. There was traffic concerns. If you can imagine there being a building at that intersection, right? And right now, can you imagine like when you're on that street on Greenwood trying to turn left onto Meeting House Road, and then you add in a school pickup in the middle of all of that mess, even with less traffic, I would imagine that would have been really hard. So they were trying to calm traffic, and I think they were trying to unify the campus. So when they moved across the street, it could be one campus instead of having a street going down the middle of it. Supposedly, it still could happen. We still might be able to close that road.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony.
Don't hold your breath, though. Susan.
There are 2 things I remember. When you asked about the hoops was something that we played with and rolled them with a stick, as they used to do in like olden days. It was sort of a fun thing to do. And on May Day, we had a whole procession with the May Queen and the whole court, and the court was chosen from each class in the high school from 7th on up. And the junior class usually got to do the hoops, and they would be lined with flowers and go down the aisle doing the hoops, which was great fun, and everybody sort of loved it. It was a big production. And the other thing was the student lounges. I think that's all I wanted to. The dorm rooms. Their dorm rooms were there when I was there, and there was a family that lived there. I think they were probably a family that worked in the school. The father was like the janitor, and the mother worked in the kitchen, I think, and they had children that went to the school. And there was another room, it was all wood, and there was another room that was the senior lounge and on the top floor, and we used to go there to smoke. That was I wonder we didn't burn down the building, kind of thing. So they're the 2 things I remember by that old little schoolhouse kind of thing. It was fun.
Gretchen, you have your hand up.
Hey, Tony, thank you so much for putting all of this together. This was incredible. My question to you is, how much time did it take you to dig up everything? It sounds like you're still digging up and put together the timeline. How many hours did you spend on it?
A lot. I actually had an intern this summer who really helped me a lot. We have a former student, graduated in 16. Emma Bisbee helped me this summer. She was with me.
Right. Yep.
She's going to be a librarian too. So she came, and she loves the archive. So we just dug through things and put things in order. I'm trying to get certified as an archivist. I'm not an archivist, and I don't know enough. And we're actually, I need to figure out what to do with our digital stuff, because some of our stuff is only digital, and I don't know how to preserve that. And we may have lost some of it, as formats change and whatnot, or if it's a server went away and I don't know, we may have lost some photos. So that's a project for me, but a lot of time. But it's a passion of mine now. So
maybe you don't want to know how many hours.
Right. I love doing it. So
thank you for your hard work.
Oh, sure. Susan Meckler.
So I thank you as well. Really cool, wonderful. Reminds me of when we went through the 300th project, which is actually when the archives started, because we said we really need to have that. And especially with the building of the Faulkner Library, there was a space and we said, grab it. And I just wanted to note that Christine Washington is on, and I think Grover Washington's concert for the opening of the Muller Auditorium was one of the most memorable experiences of my long time associated with AFS. And recently I came across a couple of his albums and I was so excited. So it's really fun to see Christine here. But it's so much fun to see all these pictures. I hadn't seen a number of these photographs. I think it was very cool. So thank you so much, and so much fun to see so many people from different aspects of school life. I won't mention some of the people I see and fondly remember being with them. So thank you.
Have I found, here's a question from the chat. Do I have pictures from the AFS 100-year celebration? Oh, 300th year celebration, Joe meant. Yes, we also have some from the 250th. We also have stuff from the 275th anniversaries, their albums and things from both of those, all of those celebrations. They're really fun to look at. Yeah, and the book from the 300th that we wrote that Susan Mackler is holding up right now. Yeah, let's see. And somebody else had yeah. And I have found a lot of photos from graduations through the years. We don't have any, we have some from like 1933, 1940s, a few from the time when it was a high school between 1890 and 1914. We probably have 5 of those graduation pictures, would you say, Lisa? Maybe 6 hanging on the wall. And I'm not sure when daisy chain tradition started. Does anybody know when, if the daisy chain tradition, from those of you who are from older classes, I don't know if you had it, where the junior class makes this flower chain for graduation and kind of presents it as a gift to the seniors as part of their tradition. I don't know, does anybody know if you had or did not have that? We could find out from this group more than anything.
We had it in 1957.
Okay.
We had it in 64.
Mm-hmm.
They still had it in 70.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely had it in the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at least since the 50s, I'm wondering, I'll have to look back at some of those pictures from the 30s and 40s and see if we can see the juniors in those with their flowers or not.
Hi, I have a question for you. This is Chris.
Uh-huh.
I came in particularly because it is Black History Month and my daughter came home with a rock from some sort of underground tunnel that they experienced. And I'm wondering if that was a part of an underground railroad for slavery. And that was just sparking my interest and wondering why that's not included in the conversation, or tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, I've been doing some research on it, but it's really very hard to find anything written about the Underground Railroad. And especially like the only things I have found in histories of AFS is like, there's a history of the meeting that was written in for the 250th anniversary. And the only mention it says about the Underground Railroad was that, what's her name? Very famous person who lives in Elkin Park, who was an attending member, like it says.
Lucretia Mott.
Thank you, Lucretia Mott, had a station at her house. And that's all it says, though legend has it that, there is a station in the Abington meeting. There's nothing I can find that the meeting wrote anything about that. But it was an illegal activity. So it would be really, why would people write it down? So it makes it really hard to know where the stations really were. The person who was writing it was, I don't have his name on the tip of my head, but I just did this research a couple of weeks ago. He wrote a whole book about it. He's in the Harriet Tubman movie. William Still, is that his name? Could be. He wrote a whole book and was like, and said, and sent the freed people on the usual routes north. And so a lot of that happened in Chester County. We have an alum from AFS who wrote a history of the Underground Railroad in Chester County, but not of Montgomery County. So I'm trying hard to find more about that because,
So
you
what
know,
was this experience about that the students experienced going down and bringing out some geological finds that she
well,
brought home with her?
right.
That was at the farmhouse. That was at the farmhouse, and Ray Shorley
Okay.
was the teacher in middle school who kids love doing that project.
Yeah, that was a different project, Susan, I think, than
Well,
this
that was
was.
archaeologic, but
Yes,
there
that was an
also-
archaeological dig, yeah, that they used to do around the farmhouse. But there is an underground space in the meeting house that's hidden, that's like, you lift up the boards and there's this little underground space. And it's legend that that was a place to hide people for transport on the Underground Railroad. We don't have any proof. I am really looking for it hard, but as I'm running into dead ends all over the place. So I'm trying to find it. The teacher who took them really asked me to really look hard because they wanted some, to see if it's not just legend.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That really did touch me. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
There's another legend that there was an Underground Railroad spot in the Abington, the house that is now the Abington Club. And one time I had a birthday party for one of my daughters at the Abington Club, and one of the people who worked at the Abington Club told me, and they told me how to actually get to this hidden room. So we went on a perilous journey. And I bet if you ask the Abington Club, they probably, that's why they used to call the first restaurant that was there, the Whistle Stop. They said it used to be like a tribute to the fact that they had been a part of the Underground Railroad.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of this was true. I do remember that they started getting very nervous that I had all these little children with me behind like the kitchen looking for a room. They asked me to stop, but nonetheless, that's a legend in the area about the Abington Club and the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, it would be really, I'm really fascinated by the topic, Christine. So I've been really trying to find more, and I want to find I have to talk to the alum who's the author who wrote the book about the Underground Railroad in Chester County and see if I can find anything, if he has anything more about Montgomery County. Thank you. I'll look at Buckingham Friends. Yeah. Oh, fascinating.
Oh, there, I'm gonna get some advice now.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Want to see anything again?
I wondered about I don't know if is my on here? About the farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Who did that belong to? Where did is there any?
I don't know.
I was just gonna say, will you have a chance to talk to her directly?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, where the farmhouse came from, and what year it was built. I don't know it much. I wonder if I need to talk to Ray Shorley, actually, who used to do all the archaeological digs, and find out if he knows more about the farmhouse. Because there's nothing in the archives related to the farmhouse except for a picture of some barns that were just next to the farmhouse.
Do you know what uses the school has? I mean, it was the school store, it was offices at some time.
It was a classroom at some point as well. For like first grade, so it's been all around.
I had it, at one point I used it for costuming when I was making costume.
At one
really?
point, Carolyn Frieder was admissions director there for a period of time. And I think the development office. So two of the offices and the business office before the Tyson House was used for business, for office space. There was such a little piecemeal kind of arrangement in the farmhouse for offices like that. So that's how it was used in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, thank you.
Before the Tyson House.
Mm-hmm.
because you were late.
Makes sense.
We just didn't feel like we could make it work.
It kind of like another follow-up question. Does
Uh-huh.
AFS have like a specific like
So I-
birthday or like founding day that we can pinpoint?
I just-
Like an exact day where they were like AFS started now, or so you can get as accurate and like as close to like when the 325th, like, you know, like when exactly their birthday is.
I find that a little controversial actually, because the meeting house wasn't even built until 1701. So where was the school before 1701?
But why wouldn't you want to have one?
I don't know.
Problem with that.
Gotcha.
Right?
And I just wanted to say again, hey, thank you so much, Tony. This was super, super cool. Really, really cool way to spend an evening after work.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to add that chapter 3 in the book from the 300th is a chapter by Ray Shorley on the history of the farmhouse
Oh,
from 1690 to the present.
excellent.
So I'm not just glancing through, but anyway, it's there.
Thank you. I will look at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have
I
no
really wanna-
idea where my copy is. I know I have one, but
I can give you another one, Betsy. We have some. We have extras. If you want one.
somewhere in 2 moves, I packed it away somewhere. Who knows?
All right. Well, if you want to come to the school, I can give you another one.
Sure.
Yes, we have plenty to, if anybody needs a copy, just let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way I could get a picture of that lounge? The old
Sure.
picture?
Sure. Who was asking?
Susan Rudin.
Susan? Sure, I can send that to you. That one was in the lounge picture was actually done in stereoscope. I've just bought a stereoscope this year, so you can
Right.
put it in one of those special viewers and see it in stereo.
Right.
But I can send you a copy of that, no problem.
That would be great.
Or
But-
if you can go to the link that I put in, it's on the timeline too. You can see that, but I can
Okay.
also send you a copy.
But
That would be great.
I have a question. Wasn't
Yes.
that picture labeled as the 1930s? So
I thought, but not if you're saying it's your class.
Well, they
no,
certainly
it's
look like a
definitely in
lot-
the 1950s or
Oh,
in
it's so
the, yeah,
funny.
in the 1950s.
They took
And
it
the
in.
clothes and
The
the
clothes,
clothes look like
correct.
1950s. They don't look like 1930s.
30. You're right. And it was done in the stereoscope, and which was popular from the 1890s until I don't know why I have this box of stereoscope pictures then from the 50s. Like, why did they bother putting things in stereoscope in the
Yeah.
1950s? Really interesting.
Well, Susan and I were in the same class. And
Okay.
so I did not recognize the people. I can't really see them
Yeah,
that well.
Carolyn,
Our
I didn't
but-
recognize you either. Now I look at your name because I was in and out of making dinner at the same time. But
Okay, here.
it's really nice to see you. I saw Sigrid. That's who I saw. You know, and I still stay in touch with Sigrid. And I thought, oh my
Here,
God,
I
that's
can-
Sigrid. You know, it was
I
like
can show that one again. Where'd it go? Here.
so nice to see you, Carolyn.
Oh,
Nice to see you too, Susan.
And I
Here's
stay in touch with Gabi. She was our, she lived with you. Isn't that?
is this
Isn't
the
that,
one? you're talking-
isn't that Liz Cole on the right? And Nancy Lindig?
I sort of thought I recognized those people by their hairstyles more than
And I
anything
think
else.
that's you behind Liz reading the paper, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I had to put my glasses on. It gives us away.
Well, now
Yeah.
I'll have to change the dates on all my
That's
things.
that's the class of 1954.
Okay,
I'm the one sitting at the table looking this direction.
You
okay,
are. So
The
it's
one
not our
on
class.
the left-hand side of the table.
okay.
That's me, Ellen Maley Crompton.
I think some of the people are from our class, doesn't it?
Well,
I'm
I
not
can
sure.
name most
Yeah.
most of them. I can name most of the people in there.
Yeah,
That's Jane Coburn and well, maybe I can recognize them.
Yeah,
The names
right.
might not come
right.
to mind, but
Ah, How interesting. Thank you so much.
Great.
I was expecting to come and learn things too, so I'm glad I did.
Great, that's great, that's great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, excellent.
Tony, there is a quick question from Ann Moss about what is Student Street, because she spent most of her time at Triangle Building.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you wanna-
So Student Street is a new addition. It's curved. It's along the back of the bus stop building that has English rooms, a physics room, and the art rooms. It's very beautiful, and students love to hang out there. It can become a problem, actually. Sometimes they're quite loud. Hanging out in the senior hallway that's where the seniors hang out now, is on Student Street. They have for years. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
terrific.
you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all your homework on this. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much, Tony.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Tony. This was
Thank you, Tony.
wonderful.
This was so
Thank you.
wonderful. It was great to see everyone, and your slides were great.
Thanks. If you have questions and you want to email me, feel free, or contact me anyway. That's cool.
Carolyn, it's great to see you.
Great to see everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I think you could stop recording, Lisa. If you figure.